Hello and thank you for joining us from wherever you are. We're live from our studios here in Kokomlemle on digital address GA0992539. Our top stories this hour. Minister for Special Development Initiative invited by police as she gives her statement following the Kaswa Registration Center chaos yesterday. We're on the ground as 4 others are charged with conspiracy to commit crime, causing unlawful damage to 3 motorbikes and discharge of firearms without authority. And as more than 300,000 students across the country write their exit exams amid the coronavirus pandemic, we check with our correspondent as 3 students of Abutia Senior High Technical School are also infected. 2 are in isolation and 28 have been quarantined. Also coming up, we revisit the story of a Hunter West municipality of the Western region where snake bites persist and the health facilities there lack antivenoms. We're live on your digital television, also on DSTV channel 421 or on GoTV 144. We stream live on YouTube. My name is Gifty Andopia. This is The Pulse. Please be my guest. You're welcome to the show. I'll take you through the details of those stories and more. Now, police in Cape Coast have questioned Special Development Initiative Minister Mavis Hawa Kumsin. Mrs. Kumsin, who's also the Member of Parliament for Ewutu Senya East, where pandemonium broke out during the registration exercise yesterday, has been at the receiving end of widespread criticisms following her admission that she personally fired gunshots at the registration center located at Kaswa. We'll hear from the police on this shortly. Now, though, the 4 persons who were arrested in connection with that incident have been granted bail by a Cape Coast Circuit Court. The court, presided over by Her Honor Dorinda Smith Arthur, granted them a bail to a sum of 30,000 cedis each with 2 sureties, and one of the sureties should be a government worker whose net salary is 2,000 cedis. The accused were charged with conspiracy to commit crime, causing unlawful damage to the 3 motorbikes involved and discharge of firearms in a public place without authority. We'll hear from our correspondent Richard Kojonyako, but there are growing calls for the prosecution of the minister, Mavis Hawa Kumsin. EC officials at the Step to Christ Center fled the scene as the exercise turned violent, with motorbikes seized and set ablaze. Ms. Kumsin has been explaining that some of the cars in her convoy were surrounded by motor riders, causing her to fire a warning shot to disperse them. She also says the men who accompanied her to the center were not armed. Eyewitnesses, however, contradict this testimony. There is more in this report.
As usual, we were doing our registration for the...
An eyewitness explains the cause of the violence that marred an otherwise peaceful registration exercise at Kaswa. JoyNews was there. The NDC candidate, Felix Koyo, accused the MP, Mavis Hawa Kumsin, of being behind the violence.
I am saying it's on authority that she instructed that the people should be shot and their motorbikes being bent because she was there with folded hands.
The MP spoke on the matter on Adom TV. First, she claimed when she arrived at the center, one of the cars in her entourage was surrounded by men on bikes. This was when she fired a warning shot.
I didn't direct it on anybody. So I gave warning shots, so that was what happened.
She insists the men who accompanied her to the center did not carry arms.
Maybe anywhere will create to
Eyewitnesses contradict this narrative. First, on the cause of the violence. One says the men in the company of the MP tried to sack the people riding the bikes. Their refusal is said to have triggered the confusion.
All of a sudden, there's a car with bodyguards inside. That is Howard Kumsin. So as they come, they were claiming anyone who is not part of the ID card should move away. And there was a royal bike here. So they decided to take the bike out of the way, and the guy said he should leave it, he will do it by himself. He just started beating the bikes, all the bikes around, put fire in it, beat the owners of the bike and just left. That's what happened.
He also says, contrary to the minister's claims, the men were armed with not only guns.
They were holding guns and stuffs, pinkers, guns, everything they were holding it. So even you cannot stand, you have to run. Everybody was running away. And there was a pepper spray and a lot of stuffs.
Another eyewitness confirms this narrative regarding the motorbikes.
So they just gathered it here and then they've set fire on it and burned it for no reason. So the EC official realized what is going on, and it was so serious, so they just have to leave the place because here isn't safe anymore.
A gentleman stationed at the center says the MP was present during the scuffle over the bikes and urged those around to be calm.
She was here, she's telling us not to run away, nothing is going to happen, whilst people are pulling rifle, shooting.
The account of the police even makes understanding the violence more confusing. The police officers confirm a gun was retrieved from the 4 suspects arrested for the violence. The officers also explained that these individuals were being held for the gunshots and the burning of the bikes.
So we have arrested 4 people in connection with what about happened at that registration center.
Alice, can you confirm that they had guns when they arrested her?
We have seized 1 gun.
First, a gun was fired. The MP claims it was her gun. The police made arrests and retrieved 1 gun. So, were there others who fired gunshots? This eyewitness, a trader, had 2 bullet marks on her gate. Her shop is at least 500 meters away from the registration center where the violence broke out.
Let's get on the ground now. Richard Kojonyako is our Central Regional correspondent. He's been following this story. He joins me. Richard, you've been speaking with the police on this matter. They've been talking you through the charges as well as further actions to be taken. Tell us.
Well, so at the moment, it's only 1 charge that we know of. And if she goes to the police station to write her statement, then it means that she will be charged with the discharge of firearms in public place without authority. That is what the police has told us. But in the morning, what we got was that the police went to Madam Howard Kumsin's house to take her caution statement. But later on, when we spoke with the police said that, well, she's now been invited to come to the police station, the Kaswa Divisional Police Station, to write her statement officially, and she could be arrested as a result of that. So I've been interacting with the PRO of the Ghana Police Service in charge of the Central Region, DSP Irene Opon.
The police have taken statements from Madam Hawa Kumsin, and she is assisting us with investigations.
How come you've not arrested her like the 4 persons were arrested?
When you talk of an arrest, I can invite you to the police station to come and assist with investigation. At the moment you arrive at the police station, I'm taking you through the procedure at the police station. If you are a suspect that we are taking caution statements from you, at that moment you are under arrest. Arrest necessarily doesn't mean that I should handcuff you from your wherever I find you before I bring you to the police station. But the moment you come to the police station and you're going through the procedure, and it will end with me granting you bail, at that moment you are under arrest. Again, we can also invite people to come and give us witness statements, and during interviewing or interrogation, when you get the facts and you think that that person cannot be treated as a witness but then a suspect, at that moment that person is also under arrest.
So why were the 4 people not treated the same way Madam Hawa Kumsin is being treated? Because the MP admitted firing, some gunshots yesterday. Why did we not arrest her yesterday in addition to the 4 people and then put before court?
When we went to the scene of crime, it was the 4 people who were met, and our intelligence also our intelligence led to us identifying her that she's somebody who can also help with investigation. She's not the only person that we are taking the statement from. Currently, the Kaswa Divisional CID have a lot of persons at their disposal that they are taking statements from them to help with our investigation. So she's not the only person that we couldn't get statements from yesterday. There are other people that our investigations have led to, and we are taking statements from them as well.
Finally, so does it mean that there were 2 gunshot incidents? Because if you look at the particulars of offense of the 4 people, it also includes they opening firearms without permission or without some permission.
What we are investigating now with what we are investigating now from the media space and other sources, we have a confession statement from the Honorable Member of Parliament that she also discharged, she also fired some warning shots. That one is clear. Again, police, we picked a pistol at the scene of crime. And when it happens that way, we need to take all arms that were used at the scene to a ballistic expert or the forensic lab for them to be examined, and then they give us an expert opinion. They will be able to tell us that this gun was fired on these dates, this number of ammunition came out of it, and this type of shells that you picked at the scene is coming from this type of arm. So we want the public to be at peace. We want to assure them that security situation at Kaswa is under control. Currently, the regional police commander, COP Mr. Paul Liawini, have dispatched more men for reinforcement purposes. Again, there are patrol teams at vantage points that we have identified at hotspots. So the security at Kaswa is calm and no cause for alarm. The place where the incident happened yesterday, the Center for the Registration, they have also resumed, and we are also providing security for the EC officials who are working as well.
Is Madam Hawa Kumsin still in possession of her gun?
For now, they have started the process. They are taking the statement. I'm in Cape Coast, and when they finish, I will get a feedback. So by the end of the day, I can get you.
That's DSP Renopong there speaking to Richard Kodunako, who is still on Zoom with me. Richard, has there been any update on it since she said at the time she was speaking to you that the processes were still ongoing regarding the gun that Mrs. Kumsin had?
Well, there hasn't been any update. We are still at the police station. We are waiting for information from them. We do not know whether Madam Hawa Kumsin has been to the police station at Kaswa to give her statement, as the police are suggesting that she should come to the police station to do so. We do not have any knowledge whether that has been done and whether the gun she used yesterday has also been taken by the police. So we do not know anything about that. But this morning, the 4 persons were put before court and they've been granted bail to the sum of 30,000 Ghana cedis, and one with 2 sureties to be justified. And one of the conditions is that one of them should be a government worker whose net salary is equivalent to 2,000 Ghana cedis. And they are to reappear on the 18th of August 2020 for case management to begin. But in the meanwhile, they've been asked to be reporting to the Kasua Divisional Police every Tuesday. So that is what transpired in court. That is as far as we know about this case.
Okay, Richard, let me find out from you whether we know these 4 people. Who are they?
Well, they were picked up yesterday in the evening. Their names are Suli Razak, Majid Amadou, Suleiman Yusuf, Razak Musa. These are the 4 people that were picked yesterday. We do not know where they belong, whether they are NDC or they are MPP or wherever they come from. So the police will be in the best position, or the coming event will unfold, so we know who really they are.
But there is this information, or this document, by the way, which we've had a copy, that says it's actually addressed to the District Magistrates Court, or addressed the District Magistrate Court, Winneba. And it says, Police Winneba case, the Republic versus James Kofi Annan, statement of offense. It goes on. First of all, refresh our memories on who James Kofi Annan is. Then I'll read what I have here in the document briefly, and we wrap it up. Richard.
Well, so James Kofi Annan is the NDC candidate for the Efutu constituency, and when the primaries were done, the NDC candidate, the original candidate after the primaries, dropped out, and then James Kofi Annan came in, and so they acclaimed him as the NDC parliamentary candidate for the Efutu constituency. Now, this incident happened, we are told, yesterday, when during a review or a challenge committee meeting, he went to the committee and was asking a lot of questions. So that is the statement you find there, and you are going to read that.
Just let me take some excerpts. It says, statement of offense. Offensive conduct conducive to the breach of the peace, contrary to section 207(1) of the Criminal Offences Act 29/60. Particulars of offense. James Kofi Annan, social entrepreneur, aged 46, says, for that you, on 21st July 2020 at 9:30 or 09:30 hours, at Latter Day Saint Voters Registration Challenge Center at Winneba Junction, and within the jurisdiction of this court, without lawful authority, used abusive words to wit, you are the chairman. So it's essentially quoting what he says. You are the chairman of the committee, and so what? You are the reason why we are not enjoying peace in Winneba, unquote. Which is intent, and according to the statement, this statement that the gentleman made is intent to provoke breach of the peace, or whereby a breach of the peace is likely to be occasioned. It is signed off by the prosecuting officer with an arrest warrant number, etc. Richard, I just want to find out, there is a much more detailed one attached to it, but I just want to find out, are they charging him because of these words that he's purported to have used in the documents we have? I mean, do you have any further explanation from the police?
Exactly. So the complainant in this case is the Futu Municipal Police Commander, and he was the chair for this committee that is in question. He said after they tried calming Mr. James Kofi Annan when he appeared, or when he came to where the committee was having the meeting, he did not mind anybody, and then decided to give him some abusive words. And one of the words, that's what you read there, that if you are the chairman of the committee, and so what, you are the reason why we are not enjoying peace in Winneba town. And the police commander takes this thing as offensive, and it is tantamount to insulting a public officer. And so they charged, based on that, they charged him for on 2 accounts, that he's disrupted a public event, one, and then the second one is that he has exhibited some insulting behavior towards a public officer. And so for that reason, it was put before court. But the court said they should come again come back to the court to observe some procedure, because some certain procedures were not adhered to, and so he's been granted bail.
I see, which means essentially that this is not necessarily all the charges that are to come against him. Yeah,
so basically 2 charges: that disrupting a public activity, And then the second one, insulting or exhibiting some insulting behavior towards a public officer who was doing his duty as a police officer. And so these are the two charges that were put before the court today.
Right, Richard, thank you very much. This is certainly a story that's still developing. I will certainly come back to it. Richard Kojonyako is our correspondent in the central region there. And on the back of this story, we've been running a poll on social media. I'll take you through the poll. So we know that December we have an election, a national election. We elect our president, we elect our members of parliament as well. So in the wake of all of these, we're asking you, all of the violence at the registration centers, we ask you about how you feel, whether or not you feel the 2020 elections will be peaceful. Of course, we've had all of these issues where you have a pocket of violence here and there, but to what extent do you feel it will be peaceful? 580 people have voted so far. We still have 21 hours left for this particular poll before it ends. But yes, 57.9% of you say yes. You do feel that the elections in the wake of all these violent registration centers will be peaceful. But 42% of you think it would not. The poll is still ongoing. You want to jump onto Twitter right now and, do some clicking. Let us know what you think. What is it for you? How do you feel? Will it be... We're also running this on Facebook as well, so you can also jump on Facebook as well and make your voice heard. What do you feel at the moment, seeing all that you're seeing at the registration centers? Let's make our voices heard to the people, the stakeholders involved, so we can get the right thing done. That's the news desk report that captures everything that has happened so far. Well, this afternoon, there's pressure on Madam Kumsin to resign her position as minister. Correspondent Richard Kojonyako will join us shortly with more on this. But before that, we can hear from security analyst Professor Kwesieni, one of many pushing for Madam Hawa Kumsin to resign.
Well, I think it's very disturbing. It's unacceptable. It's premeditated. And in her own words, when she heard instances of supposed violence, she stated clearly, Onyama Sema, that is not my business. So, to get reports from individuals, to leave her house and arm herself, supposedly with a registered weapon. Probably she's been taught how to fire in a crowded area. And to behave in that manner is putting life at risk. The dismissiveness about the gun type, and then her statement about the licensing raises a lot of concerns. And I think both Mr. Nimako and my colleague, Mr. Friyankra, have made their positions clear. But you see, politics is about serving the people of this country and creating an enabling environment in which development, stability, and peace allows us to perform. So it's up to the Inspector General of Police to handle this case. But it goes beyond the police service. This is our political culture. And it is my hope that His Excellency the President will ask Mrs. Hawa Kumsin to step aside by tomorrow afternoon, or probably dismiss her, because her behavior, although Mr. Nimaku tells us she's been candid, yes, she's been candid because she can't lie about what she has done. You know, the only saving grace for her, if she is sacked, as I'm hoping Occupy Ghana and other people will raise their voices about, then of course, being candid and saying, look, I did what I did, is her only option left. Because we need to send a clear signal, similar to what happened to Carlos, I think, is it Ankara or Ahinkra? We need to send a signal that says certain behaviors by people in public office cannot and must not be accepted. This behavior is not just about an individual in a political party. It goes to speak to Ghana's reputation as a country that is governed by the rule of law, where there's tolerance, where ordinary people feel secure, and where the rules around access to and usage of guns are governed also by law. Hawa Kumsin has done her party a great disservice, her constituency a great disservice, and certainly the good people of this Ghana a very great disservice.
Yeah. Security expert Kwesi Anand there. Well, another security analyst, Colonel Festus Abuaji, is not just calling for the resignation and arrest of the minister. He's calling for her arrest. He spoke on Prime Morning on Joy Prime.
Behaviors that are reprehensible, that are not excusable, and this is one of them. This is a minister, a member of cabinet, if I'm right. You say, a minister, a member of parliament,
right,
a lawmaker who violates the very law that she had participated in establishing. What else can you say? That is not acceptable. You see,
okay.
The right thing to do is either to resign or for her to be recalled by whoever appointed her. Under normal circumstances, you and I know that the minister, to use very diplomatic language, should have been invited by the police yesterday. She should have been one of the four, or she should have made the number 5 of those who were arrested by the police. We know that in days gone by, if an opposition, assuming that she had been an opposition member of parliament, wouldn't she have been invited by the police in courts? And wouldn't she, in all likelihood, have spent the night at the police station or police headquarters? Let's go back to the first instance when that woman, gave her that confidential information. What should she have done? She should have informed the police that it had come to her knowledge that this activity was going on. She should have informed the EC that this activity, according to the information that she had, was going on. You see, the fact that she did not involve the EC, which has primary responsibility for the integrity of the process, did not inform or involve the police, which has the statutory mandate for law enforcement or public law and order, suggests that she had become the constituency chief law enforcement officer and was going to deal with the situation the way that she thought fit. In any case, who bent those bikes? Was it the hoodlums who bent the bike, or was it her men who bent the bike?
Right.
Or the bike? She must not try to extricate herself from the circumstances in which she has found herself. The honorable thing to do, and all of us might, or some of us might have been in that situation, the honorable thing you do is to take responsibility, accept responsibility.
So calls to accept responsibility and resign. You're still watching The Pulse with me, Gifty and up here. I'm going to take a very quick break. When I return, we'll look at the coronavirus figures. We'll go to the senior high schools. We go to our correspondents across the country to find out how is it going for our young people who are writing their exit exams. Also tell you about what's happening in Kumasi, a new COVID-19 treatment center, and an update on health personnel who have been infected and those who have recovered. We'll be right back to stay with us. Welcome back to the show. Many thanks for staying with us. Senior high schools, which were reopened just a few weeks ago following the restrictions imposed to halt the spread of COVID-19, are still seeing a surge in the spread of the virus among students. In its latest report, the Ghana Health Service says at least 25 students of the Maoli School are currently in isolation after testing positive. At least 178 senior high school students across the country have also tested positive for the virus. Providing updates on the COVID-19 situation in schools, Director General of the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Patrick Abuaji, said hospitals attached to the institutions are providing some support.
I'm just going to talk about 2 of the regions where we had a higher number. I can say for a fact that some of the regions like Bono East, had 3 cases overall. They had 1. Bono, Western North had only 1 positive case. Most of the regions have very few cases. But for Greater Accra, Accra girls had 51 confirmed positives, 56. They have all recovered and back to school. Accra High currently has just 1 active case who has not recovered. He's still under care in isolation center. Of the cases in Adan, of the 10 cases from Adan Secondary School, 7 has recovered. Wesley Grammar, no case. St. Mary's had 2. In fact, Wesley Grammar has 6 suspected cases. They have not been confirmed, and so they are just in quarantine. And we have Ablekuma, where the St. Mary's, where we had 2 cases who are all recovered. For Ebenezer Secondary School, there was 3 suspected cases, 1 confirmed case, and that case has recovered. So this means that there's no problem in the school. When you come to Okanke North, the Achimota has 7 cases, and the 7 have all recovered. When you come to the Odogono, they had 18 confirmed cases. It's quite recent, and we are waiting for them to recover, but they are all asymptomatic. So of the 96 positives among the Greater Accra schools, which is a large number of schools, which is probably account for the 2nd largest population of secondary schools in terms of number, apart from Ashanti region. We had 96 cases, and 73 are fully recovered and back to school conducting the business. We can also talk about Volta region, where we had 1 case from Maoli girls, who is on her 14th day, as of yesterday, when I got this update, which means that she's out of school and back to school to work. Dabala Technical had 3 cases. 1 has 1 active case, who is also on the 14th day, so she is also going to I'm sure she is also out. Well, that was the 14th day as of yesterday. The rest, Bishop Herman has 17 cases. They are all on their 10th day or their 11th day today, which means that in the next 3 days, they all recover. The good thing, like I said, all of them are asymptomatic. The only few had some mild symptoms. That has not moved anything. Maoli School had 25 cases. 10 have been moved. All of them have been moved to the isolation center, and we are waiting to see when they recover. We have Abutia Secondary School, 2 confirmed cases. They are on day 4, and the same for Amfuega Secondary School. So, of the 49 cases, a significant number have recovered.
Let's go over to Ivy Setoji in the Volta region and find out how it went there with the Wasi. Hello, Ivy.
Good afternoon.
Ivy, good afternoon. So we're hearing, we got the figures today from the Director General of the Ghana Health Service. He gave us a breakdown of the people who are, the number of people who have been infected in the schools and what's been done. How is it manifesting there in your region? What can you report?
Okay, so in the region, a lot of things are going on. For example, schools in the region have more cases, according to insiders, but the authorities are not able to tell parents and teachers as well as students. So because they want to manage it, and then they don't want stigmatization, so they don't want it to be known. In Maui School, for example, when we got there yesterday for the examination, we were there purposely because of the examination. And then an insider who saw us on campus approached us and said he wanted to tell us something, and then told us that as of yesterday, there were 28 cases, and then nobody was talking. Teachers are scared. Students are also scared. And some students have to leave to their various homes because of the issue. So they want the authorities to come clear so that they know what is really happening in Maui School. And of course, other schools that we don't know. We understand there are other schools that have the cases, but they are not able to come out to tell the students and the parents, even the teachers, what is happening. And yet still, they mingle with each other and go to normal classes or study together. So this is what is happening, and it's causing fear and panic on the campuses.
And how are parents reacting to this? Here in the Greater Accra region, when there were cases at the Accra Girls' School, we saw parents amass at the school wanting to take their children home. I don't think we've had the number of cases we had at Accra Girls in any of the Volta region schools. But how are parents reacting to this?
Well, so parents are not really happy. You know, most of the parents, some of them are not in town. They are in the various regions, okay? But a few that we were able to talk to at least told us that they were scared. They don't know what will happen, but they are only hoping that their children are safe in the schools. At Malco School, for example, we were told that students normally just sit down with others, thinking that everything will go on well, and then the social distancing are not even well observed in that school. So a student spoke to me in confidence, saying that she doesn't want to be heard or her name not to be mentioned, that a lot of things is happening on campus. It's getting worrying. Their parents are not happy about the issue, and some of them are running away. They take SES, and then the next thing is they run away to their various homes. And then the teachers call their parents, and the parents say, oh, my son is at home. And so this is the issue. Parents are scared, and teachers are also scared because they are teaching these children. And they want government to put the right things in place so that these things will be dealt with, especially with stigmatization. Because according to the insider, the reason why they are not selling them directly, apart from today that the minister came out, was because of stigmatization. They didn't want to cause fear and panic. But that has already been caused in the school. So the parents want authorities to do the right thing. We spoke to Dr. Sinani Jikuto, who said that the right things are being put in place. The health director is doing their best. Such issues between the students, the management of the school, DES, and the PCA to handle what the health directors does their part as well. So that is it. As of yesterday, 28 cases, according to the insider, they know was recorded in Mauli School.
Ivy, thank you very much for that update there. Ivy Setoji is in the Volta region. Unfortunately, our network issues have made it impossible for us to get all of our correspondents joining us to give us the update, but we'll certainly do that in our subsequent bulletins. Remember, we have prime news coming up. If we don't, we'll get you more tomorrow. Dr. Patrick Kumar Boaje there with the figures in our schools. He also said with a backlog of 23,000 samples, the Ghana Health Service will now focus on symptomatic cases, contacts of confirmed cases, and exposed health workers, as well as students.
Currently, we have on the average about 23,000 samples that are part of the backlog. But the issue is that a sample that is released 2 weeks after sample is taken has very little public health and clinical relevance. And the most important information is that all suspected COVID cases, whether you have your test positive or not, are managed as if you are COVID. And so even for those who are sick, we are not taking chances. We are treating them as COVID, whether results or not. And that's why in our treatment centers, we have suspected cases who are in a different section and being managed because we don't want them to be contaminated in case. But until your results come, we are managed as COVID until proven otherwise. Based on this and the fact that if I'm sick and I'm not sick, I took my sample 3 weeks ago, and it comes that I'm, of course, negative, it's of no matter. If I'm positive, whatever it is, I may have recovered. And even the people that may have contracted me also have gone through the same recovery. And so, in order not to perpetuate further backlog, we are currently going to focus on symptomatic cases. That is those who come in who are sick, who suspected cases of COVID will be given priority in terms of testing. And that's what was being done when we had a little challenge with the tests. And that's why we're getting a lot of positive, despite the fact that we're not doing a full, because we are targeting the high-risk groups and making sure that the clinical cases who are likely to be positive are tested. That's why, despite the reduced number of tests, we're getting very high number of positives, and that's why the positivity rate went up. We are going to look at that. We will focus also on the contacts of the confirmed cases. Anybody who is positive will prioritize their contacts. Thirdly, exposed health workers and students will be given priority in our tests. Returnees will also be given priority so that we can also ensure that they are safe when they arrive. We test them and then before they are discharged.
We're hoping to connect with our correspondent on the ground across the country to find out what the situation is. But in the meantime, 3 Abutia SHTS students have contracted the virus as well. 2 of them are in isolation. 28 have been quarantined, according to credible information reaching JoyNews. It also indicates that some 3 students of the senior high school in the whole West District of the Volta region have contracted coronavirus. The first case was reported on Thursday, whilst the additional 2 were realized through contact tracing on the campus. One of the students, we were told, is being treated at a designated isolation center on the campus, whereas the others are receiving treatment at an isolation center elsewhere in the region. Now, JoyNews is also learning that 2 students are in isolation at the Cambodia Hospital in Sogakova for exhibiting after they exhibited symptoms of coronavirus. Further information indicated that some other 3 students are also being quarantined at the Mater Ecclesia Hospital in Sokode, whilst another 25 have been quarantined on campus. We'll connect with our correspondent shortly, but snake bite is a major health concern. But in this report, we take you to the Hunter West municipality of the Western region, where people who are bitten by snake have to suffer because there are no anti-venom there. Take a look at this report.
Very painful. You can never sleep he said you can never sleep the whole night.
That's 35-year-old Emmanuel Kujo, a snake bite survivor, recalling how he endured sleepless nights after he was attacked by a snake in his house a little over a week ago. He's now doing well, but says it's not been an easy road to recovery. Emmanuel was first given aid at the Chief's compound in his community. But even before he went to the health facility, like many others who suffered his fate, he resorted to some herbs to ease his pain.
When the snake bit me, I went in for onion and chew. And look, I went in for this thing, cocoyam. Do you know cocoyam? Cocoyam leaf. Cocoyam leaf, not the leaf, the down one. We are just clean it from my hair. So that gave me a lot.
Even though antivenoms are covered by Ghana's NHIS, they are not available in many Chiefs compounds and other health facilities across the country, like that of Fasin. Health officials here have resorted to some unconventional methods as a result of the rising cases. A traditional antidote known as Blackstone is what is deployed here. Rita Abanga is a physician assistant at the facility.
Here, we don't have the anti-snake serum. So what we do is that we use the Blackstone.
But do the Blackstones suppress the venom? Rita tells us more.
With the Blackstone, if there is already blood coming from the site or the cut on the site is obvious, you just place the Blackstone on it. If it is a snake, it will stick to the site, and after some time it will fall off. After it has absorbed the poison, as it is believed, it will fall off. Other than that, if you are not seeing any cut at the area or any snake flank at the area, what you do is you create a small cut with a surgical blade, and then you place, so the blood can ooze a bit, so that you place the Blackstone on it.
Victims are, however, referred to hospitals miles away from where they live for effective treatment.
You do the person, you give the person first aid, and then you refer the patient. You are not in a hurry to let the patient go home. because you don't know what can happen. Envenomation, some snakes take time for envenomation to set in. Other snakes too, you get them the moment the patient reports to you. So if you can't keep the patient for long in your facility because it's a CHIPS, you refer the patient to a place that he will get health care, or he can be detained and observed for further signs. Yes, and then appropriate management to be given. That is what we do here, basically.
This sometimes comes with its own challenges for some patients. At least 2 people have recently died from snake bites here in the last few years. Gabriel Menu and Mr. Nyame lost their relatives through snake bite evonomin some 5 and 10 years ago.
My brother was working at a security post at the time when he was bitten by a snake. We tried taking him to the nearest hospital miles from here, but unfortunately, we lost him on our way. My nephew went hunting and sustained a snake bite. Due to the lack of transportation and bad roads, we could not transport him to the hospital on time, and we lost him.
Our friend was also be if you do our friend, you see a church yeah, if you are more, you have a done a week, your Mombroka more, Yanahari is the Udumi who is here.
According to a Kumasi Center for Collaborative Research finding, Ghana has since 2015 recorded an average of 9,600 snake bites yearly, with some resulting in fatalities. Municipal Health Director of Ahanta West, Timothy Kobna Ofori, tells JoyNews snake bite is widespread, adding the antivenom is only available in 2 out of the numerous health facilities in the community.
We have quite a number of cases concerning snake bites in the municipality. For instance, in 2017, we recorded 16 people having snake bites. 2018, we had 18 people having snake bite. 2019, the number increased to 42. And in 2020, even as of June, mid-year, we've recorded 17 people who've been bitten by snake. So that's how it is like. Even as at June, middle of the year 2020-17, we are also projecting it or adding to it. It's likely this number will go high. For the snake bites, what we've done, we have 2 major referral centers now with doctors. Discof, which is the main municipal hospital, and then we have Aguna Health Center. It's a health center but has a doctor with other physician assistants. So that place has also been furnished to be able to cater for this kind of condition.
At Fasten, snakes are taking lives and many more are getting injured. The poor community dwellers there look to responsible health system to provide them with medicine to save lives.
They have to do that to the villages because we are all Ghanaians. We are all Ghanaians, so we have to bring the drugs to the villages because we go into bush so that we bring the food or to them too. Now when something bites you when you come to the hospital, there's no need drug over there. How can you survive? You have to die.
Henry Kwesi with this report for JoyNews.
We do have Send Ghana's country representative on Zoom, joining us to have a quick conversation on that particular story. So, How is it that this is supposed to be a social protection intervention? The fact that the anti-venom is covered in the NHIS, but it is simply unavailable. Mr. Bimpe, thank you very much for your time. I'll start with you by asking if this is something you're aware of in your extensive work.
Yes, we are aware of that. And actually, when we went around the country, and especially in the farming communities, to get a sense of the scope of existing social protection programs, one of the key things that came up was the fact that treatment of snake bite must be covered by the National Health Insurance. Basically, the citizens are saying that at the moment, that is not taken care of by the National Health Insurance. And so they would want whoever becomes or forms the next government to do that. And this is very important because in the rural areas where you have the situations that your report covered, majority of them are very poor, farmers, and access to health facilities, are of a bit of a challenge. At the best, they have access to chief's compound. In many of the chief's compound, many of the cold chain systems have been broken down. So even if the nurses have the capacity to administer the serum, they do not have the capacity to store them. So in case of snake bite, they may have to be taken to the nearest district hospital. In many instances, it has resulted in the needless death of many of the farmers. And for us, it doesn't come as a surprise that it is one of the priorities that the citizens expect government to take action or future government to take action on in terms of expanding the coverage of the National Health Insurance.
So my understanding was that this is something that's covered by the National Health Insurance, but that it is not available. Even though it is covered, it is not available.
Yes, I mean, we need to address it from two angles. Availability, availability, I mean, it depends on, it's a function of geography. Let me put it that way.
Okay.
It's a function of geography. So if you happen to be in a very remote area, you don't have it. And for the citizens, once they don't have it, it means that their National Health Insurance does not provide to them. So that's how they see it. And we are just presenting the issues. In other words, the National Health Insurance must ensure that treatment is available at the point of need, and not in situations where people will have to be carried, in the traditional, sometimes in this tricycle ambulances, or even when the ambulances exist at the district facilities, and in some of the rural communities, it is so difficult to even get mobile phone connection to call the ambulance to come and pick whoever is affected. And so their call is for it to be made available at the minimum at the chief's compound. And like I was saying, you can address that if you address the challenges with equipment and the cold chain system at the chief's compound. In many of the chiefs, actually in many of the chief's compound, we only have the building there. There is no equipment there, and it is basically not functional. And that is the issue that we need to address. So availability may be there only at the regional and in some instances at the district level, but not at the community level or at the level of the chief's compound.
Let's use the final part of our conversation to address what can be done. So in this story that Henry Kwesubedu tells, he talks about how they are resorting to their own traditional methods to deal with it. I mean, we can't pretend like these traditional methods are inferior to what we know, they have used it, it's worked for them somehow. Is there a way, from your perspective, that perhaps we can improve on these, their own traditional systems which may be readily available to them without cost?
Yes, the traditional one or the herbal treatment have been found to be efficacious in many instances. The problem, however, is that it depends on the type of snake and the amount of venom that goes into your system. I'm not a doctor, so I will not try to talk as if I'm one. But we understand that there are some snakes that are very poisonous. And so when you have that kind of experience, you need to be treated immediately. So it's a matter of distance between the farming community and the one who will administer the drug. So maybe what we can begin to do is, how do we, for example, sensitize the farming communities on the particular herb to use in case you have a snake bite, so that they will use indigenous knowledge to apply something. For example, I am told, and I am on a national platform, so I'm not able to say it with all certainty. Even, for example, if a snake bites you, you can chew charcoal and put it on the cut until you get to a treatment area. Can we begin to have some research into some of these things and establish the authenticity of it, so that we can then sensitize the people, so in case there's a snake bite, they can administer it as first aid before they are carried to professionals who will take care of them. In other words, we haven't committed a lot of resources and attention into looking at traditional forms of knowledge that can help us to address some of these challenges, so that when we do the necessary research and find them to be effective, then we can sensitize the citizens in the absence of treatment, so that they can manage the situation before the poison spreads to the heart and lungs that can cause fatalities. So let us begin to research and if you find them to be useful, sensitize them on this. But in the medium to long term, let us then begin to commit a lot of resources to ensuring that the cold chain system at the level of the chiefs are functioning, so that we can make the drugs available there and for them to provide treatment as early as possible.
Talking about providing treatment as early as possible, what do you make of the whole idea that because it is not available, readily available because it is free, perhaps if it is being sold by a private organization, then it will be readily available for whoever can afford to be able to buy it. How about that perspective?
I think that begs the question, in the sense that, my sister, you and I know that the private service providers are largely in the urban centers where they can easily find people to patronize their services. In the many rural communities, basic services or basic healthcare services are being largely provided by government. So, the private individuals are interested in their profit. They are driven by a profit motive. And we haven't gotten to a point where some of them may be moving to rural communities who may not be able to afford their service. So that I do not think can address the problem.
Okay.
It's really, the backstops of government, for government to ensure that all the health facilities at the various levels have the necessary stock to attend to the needs of citizens. And I do not think that this is something that we must leave to the private sector. When we say it is free, somebody is paying for it. Government in one way or the other is paying for it. And national health insurance in one way or the other is paying for it. So essentially, it is not as free as we talk about it. And so maybe that argument does not come in at all. Okay. What is important is that let us begin to look at ensuring that our health facilities are equipped with essential drugs and in a way that meet the needs of the citizens. And I think that is what we should be looking at and be paying attention to, so that we commit a lot of resources to that.
I certainly hope, sincerely hope that we'll be able to do it, because I mean, most of these communities are cut off national development. Most of them don't have the basic necessities of life, and to add insult to injury, they have to deal with this. I think that the least that they can have, at least, is for something to treat themselves when they are bitten by snakes. Thank you very much, Mr. Bimpe. George Osei Bimpe is country director of NGO Send Ghana. You're still watching The Pulse with me, Gifty Ando up here. We'll take a very quick break. We're still staying within that enclave. We're in the OT region now. The NDC there is threatening to meet what they say is an NPP vigilante group deployed to the region boot for boot in what it says are unwarranted attacks and intimidation backed by state security. They allege that the group arrived on the pretext of working for national security, but they believe they are a vigilante group. Head of the communication there has been speaking at a press conference.
The police commander is aware of the development as far as this registration exercise and the violence being peddled by the NPP is concerned. Yes, they are aware of all what is happening, but we are not seeing any pragmatic measure being taken by them. So as of now, we are also prepared to face them squarely.
If you say you are prepared, what do you exactly mean by you are prepared to face them? Yes,
we are prepared not to hold any maybe gun or ammunition or any weapon, but we'll face them. When they shout on us, we'll give it back. When they push us, we'll equally push them back. We are going to use our last drop of the blood to fight them.
Right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. But what we are seeing today in OT region, you realize that they brought some people clothed in some different uniform and calling them national security operative. So where are they coming from? They don't even allow the Ghana Police Service to work. Just look at the incident that happened at Jatuakura, where the national security personnel were picking the members who were there to register, and yet the police looked on. They couldn't instruct them to stop. So you realize that the Ghana Police Service is there idle while these people are operating. So what is happening in this country?
That's the OT Regional Communications Officer for the NDC, Mubarak Diplomatic. They're speaking to our correspondent, Peter Seno. I'm back with more. Do stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. Leprosy is a contagious disease, but many people are living or maybe living with it without knowing. And that's because the red patches or the reddish color on the skin, indicative of the possible start of leprosy, is painless, and its incubation period can last for about 20 years. Well, in a village somewhere in the central region, a traditional birth attendant who has the condition but not aware of has been conducting several deliveries. Seth Kwame Boateng is a producer of this documentary.
In the central region, we joined Dr. Benedict Kwao and his team of experts in their case tracing mission, and this took us to a community called Isumanjura in the Bremane-Sikuma district. There, we met this 64-year-old traditional birth attendant, Abena Ahima. She has lived in this community for over 40 years. Abena has symptoms of leprosy, but she's not aware what it is.
Me kutia adibim me na ho ya me na ya nka de poto na me bo mkoto edu bi me de bobo pa na ngwahwe ano so ai dan ai mama to ma adum te bibiduru na manuama no
na woni nurses and doctors think as say dey be na yo
anu mo me de won wan kira yale pati ayam no what wo beble me edu
na wo hwa na ya we be na wa nkasa woni
me de man kasa de me to menche yale kwa ola ha madama.
There's a past injury.
Well, it is not surprising that Abena Ahima is not aware what she is battling with is leprosy. Dr. John Amuasi shockingly reveals just a few health professionals are able to even identify its symptoms and go ahead to treat.
for sure, medical doctors and nurses have been trained in leprosy. It's taught in the medical schools, in the nursing schools, midwifery schools, and in the allied health schools. But the question is, you may be taught something, but if it's not something you come into contact with on a regular basis, you will see it and you will not see it. All right? So because it's a disease that is not so common compared to other infectious diseases like malaria and typhoid and other non-communicable diseases like the hypertensions and the other cardiovascular diseases, it won't be the first point of call. In fact, most people will see it and think it is what we call tinea versicolor, or this disease that is caused by the fungus on the skin, because it presents exactly the same way.
Back to Abena, Dr. Kwao and his team have identified some signs of leprosy, so they go ahead to examine her.
The thing is that if you lose sensation when you get injured, it means, or when you are likely to get injured, you cannot withdraw your feet to protect you from that injury because you don't feel. So I'm going to test to see whether there are any areas without that protective sensation. So I'll test at the tips here and then along the side. What's in car? Now can I one tell when country why? What's in car? So this area. Let's go.
Hi. Hi.
So you realize that the three, there was no sensation. It means that she can easily get injured here.
Hi.
So you understand why she has this ulcer here, because she can't feel here, 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 and here. So that protective sensation here is not there.
He then moves to her hand.
And in this case, she's lost the protective sensation on the hands. That's why she has this burn injury. She'll tell you that when she had it, she didn't feel the, but she realized that there was blisters there.
Yes, what they guessed is right. She has leprosy and has come into contact with many people here because of her job as a traditional birth attendant.
We are suspecting to have leprosy, has got very dry soles. And we know that when you lose those nerves that cause sweating, your soles can get very dry and they can crack easily and form wounds, ulcers. So you can see just by looking at her feet that it's very dry. If you touch it, you feel it.
Aside from the lack of sensation in her palm, fingertips and some parts of her feet, there are also visible patches on her face and some parts of her body. There is also evidence of nerve enlargement.
So she can get the ulcer again because this area is not protected. The skin is, the sole is dry. It can get infected, it can affect the bones, the ulcer will continue, it won't heal. It can actually get much worse than this.
Seth Kwame Boateng joins me with more on this. Seth is joining me on Zoom. Hi, Seth. I'm also on Zoom with Dr. Benedict Kwao. He is Programs Manager for National Leprosy Elimination Program at the Anchorford Hospital. Gentlemen, you're welcome to the show.
Thank you, Gifty.
So let me start with you, Seth. So you've been traveling not just to the central region, but you've been traveling across the country, tracking these people with this particular condition. How did you know that they were at risk?
The idea was not to find out whether they were at risk or not. The idea was to look at how they were being stigmatized. In the course of that, then I got to meet these people and I got to know more about their conditions. You know, when I came back from school, I had learned about stigma and how to deal with stigma. So my aim was to do something stigma related, and how I can use the little knowledge I had acquired to fight stigma. So in the course of doing that, I managed to get these stories, and they really helped in shaping up the story. And
right.
These are real issues, sickness that we have over the years relegated to the background because we think that we have completely dealt with.
Okay. Let me bring you in, Dr. Okokau. So there's this perception that it's only a section of society, it's only a particular group of people who can or who are vulnerable to this particular disease. Help us understand the risks, you know, how are the risks in society? What are the things you do that necessarily opens you up to such a disease, for example?
Okay, thank you. The disease is spread by droplet transmission, and it is spread by the respiratory route through the nose, the mouth, and sometimes mucous membranes. Anybody that comes into contact with the droplets is potentially at risk. So irrespective of the age, males and females also have theoretically a 50% risk. So everybody is at risk. I always say that there's good news that 95% of the population will never get leprosy because of natural resistance.
Okay.
However, there's currently no way of telling who fits within the 5% group and the 95% group. So it means that we are all potentially at risk of developing leprosy.
So, but for people who have the disease, isn't there a particular trend or pattern, or pattern that we can follow to make such a prediction? So, say you can say people between the ages of 50 and 70, people within the ages of 20 and 30, or people, I get the female and the male, I mean the gender base, 50-50, that's fair enough. But isn't there any prevailing pattern that we can learn from to be able to make a prediction?
Okay, so in Ghana, we have slightly more males affected than, I would say slightly more males detected than females, although we know there's a theoretical 50-50 risk. And sometimes we tend to think that it is because maybe females have less access to the health system. We also have noted what is like a bimodal distribution, that you have a number of people just in the late teens, and then you have another peak around the 30-40 age group. It doesn't mean that those people are at a higher risk. We are talking about a disease that has a long incubation period, which can span up to 20 years. So we have to have that in mind. It just tells you that the infecting event would have occurred anything between 2 to 5 years averagely, but possibly spreading up to 20 years before you get the case.
Is this hereditary?
No, it's not hereditary. This is one of the areas that has been a source of stigma. When someone has leprosy, their family members tend to be shunned by society. But for a disease that is spread by droplet transmission, you agree with me that someone living in the same house, someone eating from the same plate, someone sharing the same roof is likely to get infected. And so it tends to run in families, not because it is genetic, not because it is hereditary, but because people that are in close contact for a long time are likely to get the disease transmitted to them.
Wow. I didn't know actually that there was a national leprosy elimination program, and I'll come to that. But in our quest to tell people that it is not good to stigmatize, sometimes we want to, you see politicians, for example, shaking hands with people, you know, who have been infected or people who have the disease, etc. Is that dangerous?
No, as long as the patient has completed the course of treatment, they are not infectious. In fact, the moment they start taking the MDT, the drug that is available, the very first tablet they take kills about 99.9% of the bacteria. And so that patient is considered non-infectious. And that is why we no longer segregate patients who have leprosy. They come and take their drugs just like people take their antihypertensives, anti-diabetic medications. So usually those you see are those that are having the sequelae, the disability due to the illness. The illness is gone, but they are suffering the pain and the despair of the disability that the illness brought. And sadly, when we add on the stigma, then we continue to inflict more pain on these wonderful brothers and sisters of ours who, through no fault of theirs, got infected with leprosy.
But the National Leprosy Elimination Program, I didn't know we had a program like that. Bring us up to speed. Help us understand. For people like me, what really are you supposed to do, and what have you done so far?
So the National Leprosy Elimination Program or Control Program is within Ghana Health Service. It's within the Public Health Division of Ghana Health Service. And there are several programs that deal with different diseases. Some are more popular, like the National Malaria Control Program, AIDS Control Program. The leprosy program started as the Ghana Leprosy Service as far back as the 1950s. And it is due to the work of the Ghana Leprosy Service, which became the National Leprosy Control Program, that we were able to eliminate leprosy as a public health problem. So this has been identified by the health service. It is just that after we eliminated it as a public health problem, as happens with many diseases, you've dealt with the problem. And so now we tend to focus more on other diseases with maybe a higher burden. It doesn't mean that the disease is not important. We have some new cases that develop. We have to find them early. We have to ensure that we treat them, and we have to ensure that we get to zero. The problem with leprosy is that the world assumed that when we attain this elimination target, within a few years, we'll get to zero. But if you look at global leprosy figures, we've been recording about 200,000 new cases of leprosy every year for the past 15 years or more. So the whole world knows that leprosy is still there. It is not a problem peculiar to Ghana. Ghana has done very well. Our case numbers have come down. They have continued to go down. Our prevalence rate is now 0.1 per 10,000, which is far below the threshold of 1 per 10,000. But we need to be able to find every case early. Otherwise, they will transmit it before we find them. And then sadly, they may have developed disability before we find them if we do not detect them early. And that is why Ghana Health Service has not collapsed the leprosy program. We still work. It is just that we are not as visible as the other bigger programs or other diseases which have a higher burden in our society.
Fair enough. I'll take my final question with you, and then I bring Seth in. But whilst you do that, hang on for me. I just want you to tell us, what are the areas of improvement? I mean, what is it that we can do? You've indicated that it seems like you've achieved, a very significant part of your goals. But what going forward can we do? Seth, I'm coming to you so that you highlight that for me, and then I'll get Dr. Okay, we've lost Seth on the line. But Doc, let me just wrap up with you. Tell us, going forward.
We need to find cases earlier. I want to answer your question. We need to find cases earlier. So we need to sensitize both the public, and this documentary has done a lot in that regard. We need to train more of our healthcare workers. And then there is a form of active case searches. When you go out into the community and look for cases amongst people who are apparently healthy. Now in leprosy, we do that amongst contacts. So that is one area that we are strengthening in the program. And WHO has just released a guidance that's a little over a year ago that now we can give contacts of leprosy patients a drug that will reduce the risk of leprosy by 60%. Okay. So we are in the process of working to implement that also. Once we can do that, coupled with the increased sensitization and training of our healthcare workers, we can be able to get to the end of leprosy. It is possible. At least by 2030, we should get there.
I'm hoping that we'll get there. It actually has interesting characteristics like coronavirus, I must say. Something that has to
be... Yes,
yeah, it's contagious, you know, it's through droplets. Yes. You have to be contact traced. It's interesting, pretty interesting. But Doc, thank you so much for your time and for the work that you do at the hospital. Dr. Benedict Okokwao is a programs manager for the National Leprosy Elimination Program at the Ankafo Hospital, joining us there. Earlier, I had Seth Kwame Boateng join me also. He is the producer for that documentary. I'm going to take you to Parliament right now. We'll get an update of what's been happening so far. But one of the key things that has been happening in Parliament is the fact that some minority members of Parliament, specifically Ras Mubarak, a member of Parliament for Kumungu, has been calling on the House to invite the Minister for Special Development Initiative to appear before the House. Let's get to Joseph Opoku-Gakpo, our Parliamentary Affairs correspondent, to tell us why. Joseph.
So the whole issue with the shooting incident in Awutu Singer East yesterday, involving the member of Parliament who is also the Minister for Special Development Initiative, is something that's been dominating conversations on the corridors of Parliament, not on the floor itself. It's not come up for conversation on the floor itself, but on the corridors of Parliament. A number of MPs, both on the majority and the minority side, have been commenting on the incident. In fact, there's been widespread condemnation both by the majority MPs and the minority MPs. For example, the minority chief whip, Muntaka Mubarak, makes the point that this particular incident is something that is out of place. It shouldn't have happened. For him, he finds it to be shameful and very much embarrassing to Parliament as an institution. The Kumungu MB, Ras Mubarak, is going a step further and calling for a parliamentary sanction against her, and he's been directing his calls at the Privileges Committee of Parliament, chaired by Jose Wusu, who is the first Deputy Speaker of Parliament, and asking that the committee summon to over this. For him, this particular incident puts the reputation of the House in dispute. For him, it's a situation that's resulting in even a contentious kind of incident, he describes it, which is why he thinks that she should be summoned before the Privileges Committee. But for someone like Matthew Nyindam, who is the majority deputy whip, he thinks that it's a condemnable incident, which he is condemning, and thinks it's out of place that the MP would pull out a gun and shoot in the air. But he thinks it will be a waste of everyone's time to take it all the way to the level of the Privileges Committee.
Interesting. And you say this has not come up on the floor of Parliament, but rather on the corridors of Parliament. I'm interested to find out whether this has highlights the usual political divide that we know. What are the majority MPs saying? What are the minority MPs saying? Apart from Ras Mubarak.
Yes, that's exactly what is playing out. A condemnation by the minority, while the majority engages in a subtle condemnation of assault. So they're criticizing it, but they think it's not up to the level where it's worth sanctions. So, for example, Muntaka Mubarak, the minority chief whip, makes an argument that he thinks pushing it to the level of the Privileges Committee would not go anywhere because of this same partisan divide, and that the NPP has the majority. They would go ahead and protect her. They would back her even though they know she did the wrong thing, Mr. Mubarak claims. And so, although his colleague Ras Mubarak thinks this issue should get to the level of the Privileges Committee, Muntaka Mubarak appears to agree that it will be a waste of everyone's time. But he thinks that the strong condemnation that's coming from the House is something that shouldn't come from just the minority, but also the majority. And he thinks that the police needs to use this as a critical situation to show that they can assert their authority over any individual, regardless of their standing in society, and go ahead and take on the issue and investigate and bring her to book if that becomes necessary.
I take it there haven't been any conversations about a member of parliament being invited to the police station or having to, give her statement to the police, being questioned by the police, etc.?
So I've been seeking that clarification from Matthew Nyindam, who is the first deputy majority head. Him being part of leadership, chances are that when, for example, a communication comes to Parliament asking that the member of Parliament be released for any investigation, he would be aware. But he indicates that that is not something that he is aware of in terms of an official communication, although the indication is that the police have indicated they would go ahead and write that letter to the Speaker asking for her to be released. He indicates that this is a communication that will most likely go to the Speaker's office directly if that happens. But at the level of leadership, that hasn't come to their notice. And that's something that's actually enshrined in the Constitution when it comes to the work of members of Parliament. And there is a specific provision that when it comes to MPs, if you want to arrest them or for that matter, pick them up for any kind of question at the level of the police, whether they are on their way to Parliament or on their way back from Parliament, you would have to seek the express permission of the Speaker of Parliament in order to do that. And from the indication we're getting from leadership, that kind of communication has actually not happened yet. But again, the leaders in Parliament, both the majority and the minority, the chief whip at the minority side, the deputy chief whip at the majority side, say they will not impede any such processes when it eventually kicks in order to get this sort of investigation done. Madam Hawa Kumsin herself is not someone that I've spotted in Parliament today, whether on the floor or even within the precinct, and it's unclear when next we'll see her right here in the House.
Oh, hopefully very soon. Joseph, thank you very much for that update. Joseph Opoku-Gakpo, the Parliamentary Affairs correspondent, joining us via Zoom. All smiles there. Joseph, thank you once again. And this is where I draw the curtain on my part, but there's more news if you log on to myjoyonline.com. You scroll all the way down, our YouTube link is there as well. You can follow our programs from there. My name is Gifty Andrew Apia. Let's do this again tomorrow, shall we?